Episode 344, the Pandemic Series with professional triathlete Cody Beals.
Welcome to the Pursuit of the Perfect Race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in there for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pandemic Series. Today I'm talking with Cody Beals about what's going on in the world of racing, or not really racing, but just hanging out training basically. Welcome to the show, Cody.
Thanks, Terry. It's good to catch up.
Yeah. How you been, man? It's been a while since we talked about your win at Mont Tremblant, and I haven't really seen you, and you were supposed to race at Galveston, right? And that didn't happen.
That's right. Yeah. You know what? I won't just say I'm doing great like a lot of people right now. I think it's been a tough month for everyone. So my mood and my attitude have been up and down day to day. But I think more than ever, the old adage of just focusing on what you can control is resonating with me. I've always kind of just dismissed that as a platitude. But, you know, this month I'm really trying to take that to heart. And there's all these things in the world I can't control right now, all these things about the racing and training situation. But there are still a lot of things I can control. So that's kind of been my mentality lately on the good days, at least.
Yeah. I know last season and going into even some of this year, you're kind of working on your weight. Have you thrown that out, or are you still going with training and weighing yourself? Because for a long time, you didn't weigh yourself, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I've been pretty open about coming from like a background with disordered eating and being really underweight and dealing with relative energy deficiency in sport. And then a long recovery arc really over the better part of the last decade. And, you know, finally being a lot more comfortable with getting back on the scale on a daily basis, if nothing else, just to make sure that I'm not getting too skinny. So I got heavier than ever in the off season, gained a full 10 pounds over my pre-Kona weight and felt awesome, was absolutely loving it, planning to come into this season heavier. And things are really on track in that regard. So no complaints there at all. It's been really positive, probably one of the most positive changes over the course of my career.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. So let's kind of start with the beginning of this whole pandemic and COVID-19 here. When did you actually feel like it was actually going to start being a global pandemic?
Yeah, the situation really got real as I was traveling down to 70.3 Campeche in Mexico. I was traveling down there with my buddies Taylor Reed and Jack Laundry, two other Canadian Guelph-based professional triathletes. And I remember getting up that early Thursday morning, would have been like the 8th or the 9th or something of March, and checking the news, which I don't normally do in the middle of the night. And the headlines were just dominated by this. And I was kind of thinking like, maybe I shouldn't be traveling down here at all. Nevertheless, got on the plane, and Mexico was kind of surreal because it was just utterly business as usual there. There couldn't have been any indication anything was going on. But then simultaneously we were reading these headlines. So it's kind of this weird Twilight Zone sort of feeling. Coming back into Canada, we were concerned we'd even get back in the country smoothly, but it was no big deal. We breezed through the airport. And then that's when, you know, we were in self-quarantine for 2 weeks after, and the global situation really started to deteriorate, I guess.
Wow. Because if I remember right, Puerto Rico was canceled the day before the race. Like, athletes already had their packets picked up, bikes checked in, and they were ready to race, and then they canceled the race.
Yeah, I think that 70.3 was like the last event on Earth to happen before everything shut down.
I agree. So, I know you're making, I wouldn't say making fun, you're poking fun at people with endless pools and people that are using straps and stuff like that with the office memes, which I think is great.
You a fan of the show? I
am. So
good.
I also have to realize that I know Taylor is at home using bands. So are you poking fun at him?
Yeah, of course I am. And so is Jackson, my other best friend, is doing tethered swimming in someone's pool right now, and I don't really have it. I'm realizing I don't have enough friends with pools, Terry. This sucks. And then you got Ben Hoffman today plugging his endless pool sponsor as well. So I figured it was the right time for some memes because in all seriousness, it's been one of the most stressful things about this. Obviously, I'm most concerned about health of friends and family and, you know, keeping the global mortality rate low and everything. But just selfishly, not being able to swim, this is the longest break I've taken from swimming in ages. And it's definitely causing some anxiety. I think it's going to be rough getting back in the water. And it would be a different story if all of us were in the same boat. But you've got my competition, some pros in warmer climates who are basically almost able to swim business as usual right now. So
yeah, I've been
it'll be interesting.
LA Salthouse and some other ones being other pros that are down in Australia or other southern countries, and they're still swimming outside like nothing's really going on.
Yeah, our open water swim season here in Canada will not open up for another week for even the most brave of athletes, which is not me,
The most brave. You mean the ones that can be like, 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit?
The maniacs that are willing to smear Vaseline all over their face and wear those silly gloves and booties and caps and get the extra thickness wetsuits and stuff. I don't really have any of that. So, I haven't really been compensating in any way for missing swimming. I've just been focusing on, first of all, recovery, which we can talk more about, and then running and cycling. But if we're about 4 weeks and I haven't been swimming at all, I'm definitely going to have to start to find some ways to keep strength up, because running and cycling alone, I can feel my upper body wasting away as we speak, basically, it feels like.
So, let's talk more about your recovery. How you been doing with that, and what's going on with that? How have you been aiding that? Yeah,
so everyone's dealing with this in their own way. And I see a lot of pros on social media who appear to be absolutely smashing it right now. And that's great. If that's what they need to do to stay positive, that's awesome. I'm pretty adamant that the right play right now is to take downtime and completely reset the season, as if March were like November or April were December for my usual periodization. And the thinking is that I'm going to be having to race later than ever in the year. So I'm kind of loosely planning around an optimistic contingency plan of getting back to racing in August, probably. There's talk we might even be canned for the whole year, but I'm hoping we'll be back racing August. And that'll mean I'll be racing until December, which is later than I've ever raced before. So just from experience, I know that if I'm already starting to approach peak fitness in March, I'm going to be unable to sustain that by November. Even if I were to take a bit of a mid-season break, I'm going to be starting to fall apart physically, psychologically later in the season. So in order to race later in the year than ever before, I really have to reset right now and take a really good break. So with that in mind, I took a week totally off after Mexico. It's not like the month I might take almost off after a typical season last year, but it was enough to kind of regroup. And now I'm easing back into training with just a focus on aerobic volume and starting to introduce a little bit of intensity. Not my usual April periodization in a typical year.
So have you and your coach talked about how to lay this out differently and how to reframe your training? Because if I remember right, you're doing Eagleman and then Mont Tremblant, and those are ifs right now. Mentally, that's got to take a blow to that, right?
I'm assuming Eagleman is canceled. That's early June. I just don't see that happening. So I'm planning around, my tentative plan right now is to race Victoria 70.3 in August, which is this 2 weeks before IRONMAN Mont Tremblant. But I'm not getting my heart too set on anything because the situation is shifting so rapidly. And as for my coach, you're speaking to him. I'm actually back to self-coaching.
Okay.
Parted ways with David Tilbury Davis at the end of last year after working with him for 5 years. Nothing but mutual goodwill there. I have the utmost respect for that guy. I was just ready for a change. And so back to doing my own thing for now. And I was planning to kind of reevaluate around the midpoint of the season to figure out what, if any, my needs are for having like a coach or a consultant on an ongoing basis. But at this point, I'm pretty comfortable self-coaching with the day-to-day stuff. It's often just like the big picture perspective and maintaining objectivity where some extra help can be needed, as I'm sure you know.
Right. So, how's life been in quarantine?
Yeah, up and down.
I know you've done a lot of remodeling to your house.
Yeah, well, over the last few years, so I bought this 1890s semi-detached house like 3 years ago, and really blitzed the reno, which I don't recommend, over the first couple of years. It turned out being like a pro triathlete is not that compatible with being a general contractor in your spare time. That aside, I've just been doing kind of like finishing touches lately. So I spent the first week of the quarantine doing whatever I could with materials I had on hand. So I did a whole bunch of painting, spent like 3.5 days in my basement painting the floor down there, which was a god-awful job. I put up some crown molding, which was also really, really humbling given my not very professional carpentry skills. And after that, I kind of got burnt. So the first week was like hyper productive. I was like doing all this crazy home stuff. I was cleaning the house like crazy. I was on the ball with sponsors. I was researching options trading. I was bursting with all this nervous energy, really. And then by week 2, it was kind of like a switch had flipped, and I'm like on the couch eating cake, watching like Japanese game show highlights or something.
Of all the things you could have just said to watch on TV, Japanese game show highlights. I would not have guessed that.
You got to check it out. Someone recommended it to me. Like maybe I have a weird sense of humor, I guess. Like a lot of mainstream comedy in North America doesn't really make me laugh. And then just the stupidest garbage I'll crack up at. So
Tiger
I'm not exactly, I haven't checked it out yet. No, is it worth it?
It's like a train wreck and a gay Joe Dirt that has
you got my attention.
That has like 50 tigers at least, and he's feeding the tigers expired meat from Walmart or grocery store, and this other woman that shall remain unnamed in Florida killed her husband and fed him.
I've seen all the memes. Yeah.
There's memes everywhere. I mean, I think there's a group on Facebook just dedicated to memes. It's hilarious. Yeah. Like, me and Emery binged it in like 3 days, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this it's like a train wreck. You can't stop looking at it. You're like, it can't get worse, and then it does. Every episode is worse. It's like, what?" But that's good. And then we also watched All American, which is about football in LA, and it's based on a true story. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I actually cried like 3 or 4 different times in that series, because it's like, man, like the way they wrote it, you can understand what every person is going through, and there are several big milestones within it, and it's just like so powerful the way they depict things. It's really good. Cool. Yeah.
I got to say, the one bit of, I'm trying to tighten up my spending right now, given the situation. But the one bit of spending I'm considering is a new TV. I don't usually watch much TV at all, but one thing leads to another when you're cooped up in the house for several weeks. So I think it's time for that 4K 65 inch.
Well, so you probably noticed that my office is different because I moved houses. So we're in a new house now. And
wow, how'd the move go?
We moved early January, and I'm glad we did when we did, because like I couldn't imagine moving right now, because all the movers here in the Dallas area are canceling. They're refusing to move anybody. So you'd have to be in your old house for longer because you can't move it unless you know somebody to help. The furniture store where we went to get our furniture is shut down, so we wouldn't be able to get new furniture. They wouldn't be able to deliver anything. Like, everything is actually just shut down. So, I mean, I'm thankful that we can both work from home, and it's not that bad here. But, I mean, there's some people where it's like, man, like, you're still having to go to work because you work at a restaurant, because food is a essential business somehow. Like, I don't understand how some restaurants are, like, open and some aren't.
Yeah, we've got the same thing in Canada. The definition of essential workers is fuzzy. I mean, a lot of them you wouldn't argue with at all, but I've heard a lot of cases that sound pretty dubious. But what do I know about that?
Yeah. The medical system here is, I heard on the news this morning that some of the hospitals in the smaller areas and regional areas are shutting down because they're not able to afford to stay open, because all they're doing is working on COVID cases versus the non-essentials like plastic surgeries, non-life-threatening things, and they're not able to have that income to pay everybody.
Oh, geez. Terry, you're baiting me to go off on a rant about your U.S. medical system right now, which I probably shouldn't do. I try and stay apolitical in my triathlon career.
Oh, I know. Like,
yeah, no, you're asking when it got real here. Like, back in Guelph, our grocery store and our hospital had outbreaks, especially the hospital. It's like one of the hot spots in Canada, and our little city of 130,000 or something, Guelph. So that really made it pretty real. But by and large, it sounds like we're managing pretty well here so far.
Yeah. Are you still going to the grocery store, being able to get everything you need as far as food and groceries go?
Yeah, there have been a few things wiped out, but I'm not seeing big panic here, or I'm not seeing hoarding or anything like that for the most part. It's been pretty sane. And even like, so I've been really making an effort to not leave the house. I have been running outside on my own. And, I've seen some people calling out athletes for doing solo workouts on their own. Like, show me the evidence suggesting that it's really increasing my risk appreciably to go out for a run on my own, where I'm not within 10 meters of another person the entire time. I'm just really skeptical of that. Like, this is going to be a long haul here. This could be months of something like this as the new normal. We've got to pace ourselves. We got to do everything we can to flatten the curve and all that. But I think there's also, other things that are important too, like preserving our mental health, preserving our fitness. And I've even seen some people suggest that athletes shouldn't be training hard right now or training at all because it suppresses your immune system. And that's just utterly bogus. Like a moderate amount of activity actually, bolsters your immune system, I think. So I would call that out, but I've kind of stayed away from all this crap on social media because it's just easier to not engage. Like I've even been avoiding posting pictures of training outside because if you look at other pros accounts, they're getting blowback from that. I'm just trying to do it in a really responsible way on my own, avoiding crowded routes, like way out in the country where I don't see another person almost the entire ride or run. So I'm pretty comfortable with that, and I'll keep reevaluating as the situation changes, I guess.
Yeah. Now I know James is a photographer. Has he noticed a decrease in business?
Oh yeah, it's been rough. Like he was just launching this videography business, content creation, and was very much in the process of networking. So with a startup like that, it often takes at least a year to really make the connections to start to make it profitable and stuff. So his business has taken a big hit. On the other hand, though, we've seen some inklings that there could be a switch to more. All these companies are pivoting basically to deliver services digitally. And so that's an opportunity for someone like him who can be pretty nimble. He's not so specialized that he only does videography or photography. So he's got some experience with, web design and a whole bunch of related skills. So there's some business there that could ramp up, but yeah, both of our incomes have taken a huge hit. It was funny. Like before this, I was just, so I bought this place earlier in my triathlon career. Then I had my 2 best seasons ever. And I'd always been kind of a minimalist at heart, and I was starting to see a bit of a creep in my lifestyle. And I started to wonder, like, maybe I should treat myself to that house that's worth twice as much with more space. And I was kind of rationalizing that decision. And then this hit, and I'm really grateful that I kept my financial planning so lean right now. And, my expenses so low. So even with, the two of us seeing it, maybe a 50% reduction in income, we don't know the extent of it yet. It's not really a big deal. It's not really financial stress. Like it means we'll be saving less this year. It doesn't mean our standard of living is changing. It doesn't mean we're struggling to pay bills. So I'm relieved we made those decisions earlier on. A lot of people I think are struggling right now, and I really feel for them.
All right. I mean, I think the PTO stepping up and giving a payout earlier in the season helps out a lot of people too.
Yeah, that was really a master stroke. I think they handled that brilliantly. I'm really impressed, and I hope the PTO is able to weather this storm and be around after this. But such an unfortunate timing for them.
Yeah, because this is their first year in doing the Collins Cup and everything, right? That's
right. Yeah, and they had false starts in the past and stuff, and then finally they had all their ducks in a row this year, and then matters beyond their control happened. So I think they've got a good long-term business plan though, from what I can tell, and I think that early payout to support pros was pretty brilliant. I just saw soccer, football in Europe or the UK. They're considering following suit. There was an article suggesting that they should follow the lead of professional triathletes with organizations supporting players. I don't know the details of it, but it's just a headline that caught my attention.
Wow. I haven't seen that. I'll try to look that up. So moving forward, I've reached out to, I think 8 or 9 triathletes that I've had on the podcast, just, asking, hey, how's your mental health? How are you staying not depressed? And a few actually said it's really struggling, and it's really hard to stay motivated and just positive because it's such a financial hit. There's no basically work in the near future to gain money at podiums or anything. And sponsors are like, well, hey, we're not making any money selling anything because nobody's racing. And some people have gotten cut sponsors. How are you doing as far as mental health goes?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm glad you had that level of honesty from other pros, because I see a lot of pros on social media trying to put on a brave face, and it doesn't align with the private conversations I've had with a lot of my good pro friends. Like, this is hitting everyone in different ways. No one is immune to struggling in the face of this, I think. I'm doing all right. And it's actually surprising because, like, in the past, I've been public about struggling with mental health and stuff, and I've actually been less anxious in the face of this than I was, say, before leading into Kona last year. So I can't exactly put my finger on why that is, but I think I've always done okay in high pressure situations like this, especially when it's kind of beyond my control. On the sponsor front, I've been really fortunate that I haven't had any companies cut me loose so far. Everyone's still been able to make payments. Obviously, my earnings potential is a lot reduced if I'm not able to race and earn bonuses and prize money. But I'm also fortunate to be in a position where I have base salary contracts or quarterly salary contracts that will pay my basic living expenses. And so so far these companies are struggling, I know, but they're all showing that pros are still something they value. The flip side is that I feel more pressure than ever to continue to demonstrate my value, to prove my value as an asset, as a professional triathlete. I'm not able to do that through racing, then how else can I do that? And so more than ever, I have an inbox right now full of requests for content and stuff. So the way I've been pivoting is training less and spending a lot more time creating content. James and I basically spend all weekend shooting video and photo for different projects. So that's good, but it's not what I signed up for. I don't want to be a full-time digital marketing specialist or spokesmodel or something like that. I want to be a professional athlete, and I'm really hopeful it'll return to that normal.
Yeah. So what are you excited about in life right now?
Well, I want to put up crown molding in the rest of my house. I'm addicted. It looks awesome. I love it. It was a pain in the ass though. No, what am I excited for right now? That's like a challenge of a question. I got to think more about that. My orchid collection's looking pretty good. I just repotted them.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on little things right now. I guess that's kind of where my head is. I'm not trying to hang all my hopes and excitement for the future on some races that may or may not happen this fall, or a triathlon career that may or may not even be there as we know it next year. So I'm more in the moment than ever before. Maybe that's why I'm not so stressed right now compared to in the past. That's been a positive change, I think.
That's good. Well, I think we should just leave it at that and call it a day. And you're Cody.Beals on Instagram, I think. So if people want to follow you over there, you can. And I'm at Perfect Race Podcast. That's what I would do. But, it was great catching up with you. And if you need anything in the future, be sure to let me know, and we'll chat soon, okay?
Thanks for running the series, Terry. I love it.
Yeah. You have a good day, okay?
You too.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.